Have you ever looked at a Japanese car and just had that weird feeling of déjà vu? Like, hang on, I've seen that design somewhere before? Well, today we're going to dig into 7 pretty shocking examples where it seems like Japanese automakers might have been, let's say, heavily inspired by their American and European rivals. All right, let's get into it. And that's really the big question we're asking today, right? Where do you draw the line? Is it a respectful nod, an homage? Is it just a case of taking inspiration, or is it something a little more like a full-on design heist? So to understand any of this, you gotta get the backstory. As Japanese car companies started to go global, their designers had one main job: make cars that people in the West would actually buy. And well, one of the quickest ways to do that is to look at what's already a huge hit over there. Our story really kicks off right after the war. This was a time when what mattered most was function, durability, and just pure rugged practicality. And this era set the stage for one of the most famous, inspired designs ever. Okay, our first example is an absolute legend. You have to remember, the Willys Jeep wasn't just another vehicle. It was the global standard for what an off-road machine should be. So when Toyota decided to build the Land Cruiser FJ40, they didn't just copy the function. I mean, look at it. They adopted that same tough, military-inspired look. And honestly, a lot of people would say they perfected the formula. So that's our first big question for you. Was the Willys Jeep just a benchmark, something to aim for, or was it more like the actual blueprint that Toyota's engineers had sitting on their desks? All right, let's move forward a bit. We're now in an era where Japanese brands weren't just looking for functional ideas. They started aggressively targeting the specific tastes of Western buyers, everything from muscle cars to fancy luxury sedans. And this is a perfect illustration of that strategy. The Ford Mustang was more than a car. It was a cultural icon, a symbol of American freedom. So when Toyota brought out the Celica A20 in the 70s, it's pretty hard to miss the family resemblance. They basically captured that iconic fastback vibe, but in a smaller, more affordable, and way more fuel-efficient package for the whole world. And you know what? It was a genius business decision. It gave people a taste of that American muscle car dream without the big V8 engine. But it still makes you ask, where does that respectful homage end, and where does straight-up imitation begin? Next up, Lexus makes its grand entrance. In 1990, the Lexus LS400 was launched with a single mission: to be the best luxury car on the planet. But if you look at its design, it's unbelievably close to the undisputed king of luxury at the time, the Mercedes S-Class. So you really have to wonder, was this just a coincidence? A case of two companies thinking alike about what luxury means? Or was it a calculated strategy? To beat the leader, maybe you first have to look like the leader. And hey, this trend wasn't just for sedans. The third-generation Toyota MR2, a fantastic little mid-engine sports car, looked an awful lot like another German legend, the Porsche Boxster, which had come out just 3 years earlier. The proportions, the headlights, the similarities are definitely there. I mean, the resemblance is pretty hard to deny, isn't it? So it kind of leaves it up to you to be the judge here. Was this just some subtle inspiration? Or was it something a little more direct? Okay, let's jump ahead to some more recent times, where these design echoes just kept on appearing in the market. Oh, wow. Now this one. This one is just blatant. The Toyota Mega Cruiser looks like the Hummer H1's long-lost twin. I mean, they're both these massive, heavy-duty, military-born trucks. The Mega Cruiser rolled out in 1995, just as the Hummer was becoming a pop culture phenomenon. And this feels like a classic case of seeing a massive trend and jumping on it. When a wave as huge and unique as the Hummer comes along, it must be pretty tempting to build a surfboard that looks exactly like it. But it wasn't just about giant trucks either. If you look at Japan's super popular small K car market, the Daihatsu Gino took a whole lot of inspiration from the iconic British Mini, especially with that really distinctive front end. So what do you think? It's a tiny little car, but it's got a very, very big resemblance to an absolute legend. And for our final example, let's look at the 2004 Honda FR-V minivan. Put it side by side with the second-generation Mercedes A-Class, and the parallels in that overall profile and shape are just striking. It really suggests that even practical family cars can have these design echoes. And this really brings us right back to the central question of this whole thing. Is this just parallel thinking? Where smart designers all over the world just happen to land on similar solutions? Or is this solid proof of a much more direct influence flowing from one continent to another? So from rugged off-roaders to sporty roadsters and even luxury sedans, the pattern seems pretty clear. There's a long history here of Japanese automakers finding some powerful inspiration in what was already successful in the West. Now it's time for you to make the call. So let's just run through that list one last time. We had the Land Cruiser versus the Jeep, the Celica and the Mustang, the Lexus LS versus the Mercedes S-Class, the Toyota MR2 and the Porsche Boxster, the massive Mega Cruiser versus the Hummer H1, the little Daihatsu Gino and the Classic Mini, and finally, the Honda FRV and the Mercedes A-Class. All right, so that brings us to the final question, and this one is for you. After seeing all of these side by side, which of these pairings do you think was the most shameless, the most bold-faced copy of them all? Let us